All right, welcome back. We are what are we? ACI course 9, class 7 already, June 29th already, 2025. And I'd like to first announce that our friend Tom in Florida waved to us. Tom's, everybody knows you. She has offered yoga sessions online. She has a really wide range of yoga expertise, and she's put together a flyer that says what she offers. And so I want to refer you to Tom if you're just interested in what she has to offer, to ask her to send you her flyer. So her email, if you don't have it already, is Tom, Tom, B as in boy, K, 1991 at gmail.com. And she'll send you the information. She's offering by donation, so kind of her. Okay. So let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there before you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Deep down, we know this is what we're meant to become. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. Even inevitable. And so I invite you to grow this wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratnam Mandalakam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings awaken totally for the benefit of every single other, like tomorrow. Could be. So last class, we learned more about the individual freedom vows, and we learned that there are 5 things that can cause us to break them. One of them is to just give them back formally, right? Doesn't mean we break them, but it means we don't have them anymore. Second one, when we die and transmigrate, we don't have those vows anymore. Third one, when both sexual organs appear on your body. So don't do that. Fourth one, if you change your sex 3 times or more, you lose your vows. And last one, losing our store of virtue. Right, that one's probably the one we could get the closest to in an inadvertent moment of serious upset, from which we stayed seriously upset without regret. But then we also learned that there are 2 results of keeping our vows. In the short term, we get human or pleasure being result, which is interesting. That's in the short term, right? Which isn't so short. But in the ultimate term, we reached one of the 3 enlightenments, and we talked about what that meant. Nirvana or better. So that said, hopefully we want to know as much as we can about what it means to keep our vowed morality, if that's going to be the tool through which we close the door to lesser rebirth and better, get on the conveyor belt to nirvana and Buddhahood. So the basis of our individual freedom vows is the ethical living in which we avoid those 10 non-virtues. And we learned that Lord Buddha knows our 84,000 mental afflictions that drive us in our behavior choices. And he says, that's too much to work with. Let's boil them down to the top 10, out of which all the rest of those evolve, out of which they come. So if we can work on avoiding these 10 at obvious levels, gross levels, all the way down to the most subtle level, we don't have to worry so much about the other 883,989 mental afflictions, right? We'll take care of those too by working on these 10. So like, phew, thank you, Buddha. You just made this task a little more doable. So Lama Tsongkhapa goes into detail about these 10 non-virtues in his big text, the Lamrim Chenmo. And he's drawing from multiple sources. Of course, 2 primary ones are Buddha sutras, one of them called the Chapter on the True, and the other one called the Sutra on the 10 Levels. We're studying Tsongkhapa, and he goes into a deeper explanation of the karmic results of those 10 behaviors. When we understand these karmic results on these different levels he's going to show us, we can better understand the experiences that we have in daily life. Not just the great big ones, why did I get in that nasty car accident? Why did my parents' plane crash? Why? But the day-to-day struggles and happinesses that we have, they all have specific causes of specific behaviors that we did at some point in the past, this life or before, that are now ripening into our current experience on all these different levels of that experience. So it takes an omniscient being to see exactly as we understand. But we can understand the correlations well enough that even without omniscience, we can do a pretty good job figuring out what behaviors cause these experiences, and so what behaviors to avoid doing if I don't like that experience, what behaviors to do more of if I like the experience, what to do the opposite of if I don't like the experience. And I already said what to do more of if we do like the experience. So the more we understand these correlations between our experiences, our behaviors in response to the experiences, and what experiences we get next, the better we understand the correlations within that cycle, the better we can design our own future by way of choosing our behaviors. And then we see that the vows that we take to avoid certain behaviors, we would have come to that conclusion on our own. But it might have taken 3 countless great eons to do it. No, and Buddha said, let's give them a break. Let's give them the guidelines so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Thank you so much. And then to increase the power of our new choices of behavior, let's have this system be they vow to avoid the behavior that they already see they can avoid. And now they get the added bonus of the goodness of keeping the vow as they're not doing that behavior. And we can help them go through this process a whole lot faster than I did, says Buddha. Right? So thank you. And that's what we're studying, is to learn the correlations so that we can see how our choices of interactions with others is either perpetuating our samsara or finally starting to slow it down, even sooner or later stop it. We've all probably already learned, something unpleasant is happening, and we have learned to think, wow, what did I do to cause this? And if you leave it there, in my experience, if you just answer that question, oh, I was like that to somebody else, and leave it there, I didn't find that particularly helpful. I need to know what to do about it. So I would need to identify clearly, what is this event? What about it is unpleasant to me? And then, okay, I did it. What do I need to do now to not make more of it in the future for anybody? Right? So to me, the more important question in the face of something that we don't like so much isn't, what did I do to make this? It's, okay, I made it. Done. What's the opposite? Right? What do I want to plant instead? My automatic reaction wants to yell back. Not going to do that. What's the opposite? But we might find ourselves in a situation where There's the boss yelling at me again. Okay, I yelled at somebody, but you know what? In this lifetime, I've never been a yeller, right? When I got upset with somebody, I cried. I couldn't help it. I'd start to cry. And so it's like, it wouldn't help me to say, well, I just have to stop yelling because I don't yell. So it isn't really helpful. But when I look deeper, as they're yelling at me, they're really blaming me for something I didn't do, or maybe I did and I don't want to admit. And it's the blaming factor that's got me upset, not the being yelled at so much. And if I then look and go, well, do I blame others? Oh, whoops. Now I see where this is coming from. Now I see what I want to do the opposite of. Right? In the immediate moment, it doesn't address them yelling at me, but it addresses why I'm upset with them yelling at me because of the blame factor. So, all right, whatever happens, this gets finished. I need to go and see where it is I'm blaming others in an unpleasant way and stop doing it. Can you point out that somebody needs to do their job better without blaming them in a way that upsets them? Absolutely. Does it take some effort? Absolutely. Will we make mistakes? Probably. But once we understand these correlations better, our motivation to try will be stronger because we'll see that, this is what I'm meant to work on. And the universe was just showing me, right? My life was showing me what habitual mental afflictions are needing me to learn to respond in a different way to them. So that's why we're studying this in detail. And it goes by in one class pretty quickly. We revisit it a little bit in the Lojong, but I found the answer key from this class, what became my go-to encyclopedia about understanding the karmic correlations as I was trying to work with my keeping my book, etc. So to have this system worked out, it's way more fun than to just be thinking, oh, traffic jam, I cause traffic jams for other beings. Big deal. I got in people's way. I obstructed people. Okay, how do I stop doing that? Where do I do it now? Plan out how I'm going to not do that. I'm going to get into the long line at the grocery store. I did that for a long time, years probably. And knock on wood now, no long lines at grocery stores, even on a day when there's no cart, So many people in the store, all the carts are taken. But by the time I get to a checkout, right, walk right through practically. And if there is a long line, guess what will be the one that the new checker that opens up points to? You come, right? It happens all the time now. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it took, 5, 8, 10 years for that shift to happen. But it did happen. Just like the lamas say so. Be patient, diligent, be diligent. All right, so the 10 non-virtues from the sutras, we know them. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, 3 of physical action, 4 of speech, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech. Sometimes those 2 are, the order is changed. The order is not so important. Useless speech, the 4th one. And then 3 of mind, coveting, sometimes called jealousy, ill will, and wrong view. So we're going to go into those in a little bit more detail. For any of them, the ripening result from them is like the specific way the result ripens is influenced by 4 factors when we're doing those deeds. So the 4 factors, the first one is the extent to which the deed was premeditated. So let's use killing as an example. A premeditated act of killing plants a seed in our mind for a different result than an accidental killing, right? It's still, the result will be from having killed, but you can imagine the difference, a premeditated one versus accidental. So the first factor in what's called a full path of karma is it is premeditated. The second factor is that we need accurate identification of the object involved. In the case of killing specifically, we must see that the object that we are premeditated about killing is a living being. It is alive. It is the one we intend to kill. Like we're doing worst case scenario here. Third, the extent to which we are influenced by a mental affliction is then included in the seed that's planted. And so it will play a role in the circumstance of that series of seeds ripening. We are always under a mental affliction of some kind. But the one that's the strongly motivating our response influences the seed. Fourth factor, we actually undertake the deed and complete it. So in the case of killing, for instance, we could premeditate it, know our object clearly, have a mental affliction about it, but never do it. These seed plantings will bring results, but if you never kill the being, these seed plantings will not bring the result of you dying prematurely. If you complete the deed, now the circumstances ripening result is that your life ends sooner than it would have. And that starts this whole debate about how can you die sooner than you would have. But let's just leave that on the shelf for now. If we kill somebody, when those seeds ripen, somebody's going to kill us, period. And that's what makes killing a wrong deed. There's nothing in killing per se that's either good or bad. That's hard, right? It's like, yes, it is. Killing is just plain bad. It's just plain bad because as a result of killing someone, something, we will be killed. Yeah, but we live in a world where this body's gonna die. Yeah, why do you think? Because we kill to keep it alive. Animals do it. I don't know, I might go so far as to say probably plants do it too to some extent. We can't live without killing something, unfortunately, because of our ignorance, which means we could. If we weren't ignorant, it wouldn't be the case. Buddhists don't kill things in order to stay alive. So these 4 factors. It does not mean if you don't have all 4 intact, you don't make a karmic seed. It's that you make the worst outcome by having all 4 of those factors at the strongest level. And all the nuances within those 4 are nuances that are revealed by how the result ripens upon us. All right. So for killing means taking the life of another being or contributing to it, right? Somehow encouraging or setting somebody else to do it, any way in which we're supportive of other beings being killed means we're making karmic seeds for being killed. They say, even if you're in the military and you're the cook, so, right, you're feeding all those soldiers, you're still contributing to the karma for the killing that's happening. And then they go on to say, and you know what? Anybody whose taxes get used to support that, is getting some seeds from killing. And, again, it's like we're kind of stuck. We've heard Geshe-la say, write a letter to your administration and say, I understand I need to pay my taxes, but I'm morally opposed to war and killing for any reason, and I'm just stating my case. And it does something, right, to our seeds to help protect us a little bit. I have to admit, I haven't done that yet with this administration, but I have with previous ones. Killing. The second one is stealing, taking that which has not been given, which includes cheating on an obligation or underpaying what's due, or any kind of sneaky or shady business deals. Any place where we are trying to get the advantage for ourselves that has to do with an exchange of something that we're obligated to, not just money. The third one, sexual misconduct. Here it mainly is talking about adultery, interfering with committed relationships. But the scriptures include other factors in sexual relationships that, according to our cultures, they're perfectly acceptable behaviors. And the scripture isn't saying, no, those are bad behaviors. The scripture is about behaviors that we think are pleasurable, that in fact hurt us in the long run. So it's not about having sexual activity or sexual relationships. It's how those relationships influence us in a way that we get our attachments, we get our needs met, we expect somebody else to do for us, all of those mental afflictions that go along with the sexual activity part of a relationship is what Buddha is pointing out. It will our arenas in which we perpetuate our samsara, thinking everything's perfectly fine. So the scripture points out stuff that, nowadays it's like, no, that, nothing wrong with that stuff. And Buddha agrees, nothing wrong with it, except that it just perpetuates our want for more. And They don't say in the long run, just become celibate. Although they do say there's a big advantage to being celibate on purpose for a certain period of time at a certain level of your practice because of how it engages with that energy that we call sexual activity energy and helps us get some distance from the automaticity of those events so that we can learn to use them in a different way for later. Meanwhile, in order for that for later to ever come, we need to have the karmic goodness planted surrounding our relationship with others in a sexual context. So they give us these guidelines for sexual activity that is the least likely to increase our mental afflictions surrounding relationships. They have rules. No, you don't have intercourse in the orifice of the body that wasn't meant for it. You don't masturbate. You don't have relations with someone too young, meaning not yet an adult in that society, someone who's related to you with a certain closeness. I don't remember exactly what it was. With a woman who's on her menses, or a woman who's pregnant with a child more than a month, which you barely even know by then. With a woman who's caring for a very young infant, with someone to whom it would hurt, with someone who has a sexually transmitted disease, and excessive, which, who knows what that means. So there are other, you'll see in the reading, there's a list of stuff. Again, it's pointing out those aspects of our relationships that increase worldly desire. Okay. Geshe-la said, very likely there are parts of this teaching, all of it, but this in particular, that our mind's going to reject. Fine. Put it on the shelf for now. Right? Rather than try to sort it out. We have lost students, right, because of this literature. And it's unfortunate because it's not necessary. It's not necessary if we can stay open for the deeper message. Right. All right, let's go on to speech. Speech, the first of the non-virtue of speech is lying. Here, meaning giving someone else a misimpression. It's one thing to intentionally lie for whatever reason we would do. It's another to be so clear and precise in our speech that we're really trying hard not to give the wrong impression. And we can't always do it, right? And, there will be situations where we need to make this call, and we maybe need to be willing to give a false impression on purpose because of the situation. My own example was, in medical care, rarely somebody would have something that, if I could have let myself respond, I would have been going, gads, right? I would have been freaking out. But I was the professional in the room. I was there to take care of it. I needed to keep my professional face on and not go, gads, how in the world, right? But deal with it instead, intentionally giving a misimpression, because that was my job. But if I was intentionally giving the misimpression so that, I didn't show that, I wasn't capable, that would be a different misimpression than I'm showing that I can deal with what you've got going on, because I could. It was just flipping me out to do so, and I didn't show that part, right? If they had asked, I would have told. But do you see, so these are not so cut and dried as we think. I still planted seeds for being in a situation where somebody's flipping out, but not responding to the flip out and instead dealing with whatever's going on. So I would say I did a wrong that I hope is going to come back in a positive way, but a positive way that still sounds stark. So maybe I could have done better. So none of these are like 100% black and white, ever. It's our effort to be really precise, right? To give the impression we mean to give. When we flat out lie about stuff, we do it either to get something or we do it to avoid getting in trouble, right? And either way, the result of lying, we will learn, is to be lied to and not believed. And so if we lie and we get what seems to be the result of the advantage of the business deal, those two cannot be related. The advantage of the business deal is getting some kind of wealth. The disadvantage of lying is somebody's going to lie to us. Once we see these correlations, it becomes more clear, how things that we think are related as cause and effect because they happen one after the other are not in fact cause and effect. They do happen one after the other, but they're not related. And technically, nothing we do is related to what comes next. And that's really hard, debatable. It's like, look, I lift up my cup. The next thing that happens, I take a sip of tea. Aren't those related? Technically not. Weird. Not to worry. So lying. Fifth one, divisive speech. Divisive speech. Divisive speech means saying something to someone that will make them dislike somebody else more. Right? Divisive. Speaking in ways that split people apart. We tend to do it. Usually there's some context where there's somebody we don't like, and we know the person we're talking to doesn't particularly like them either. And so we're willing to point out that person's negative qualities, right? Because we agree. And them agreeing with me verifies that I'm right. When of course I'm not, but verifies that I am. And I get that feedback. And as a result, both them and I dislike that other person more, right? We believe that our judgment about them must be more correct because we both agree, right? We do it so ubiquitously in just casual conversations, not with any intention. I want you to like them less, so I'm going to say this, right? Not at all with that kind of intention, but the end result is we've split people apart. what we say about the other person doesn't even need to be true. Most of the time it's not anyway, which means we're also lying, whether we know it or not. Then it's just the fact that we're saying something negative about somebody to somebody else. Sixth one is harsh speech. Harsh speech means we're using our speech with an unkind intention. We want the effect of what we've said to be unpleasant for someone, right? Hurtful. Or we inadvertently use speech that the other person finds as hurtful. But technically, it's using speech that if somebody used it with us, we would find it hurtful as our criteria for whether it's harsh or not, right? It's not just the words, although cursing, harsh sounds, overly loud music, it isn't technically speech, but it brings a similar result. It's the intention behind it is this harsh unpleasantness. Somehow we're wanting to bring some unpleasantness. When we think of it that way, it's quite ugly. Then the fourth one for speech is idle speech or useless speech, meaning this meaningless chatter. They say even if we're just chattering to ourselves or to inanimate objects, but more importantly, arguments, criticisms, disputes that aren't like going through a reasoning to try to come to a solution that will benefit everybody, just bouncing off each other. Our differing opinions and blame factor. Even reciting non-Buddhist texts, they say, is considered idle speech. That's a little bit unfair, but we would add to that reciting Buddhist speech, Buddhist texts, while we're thinking about something else. Anybody do that? Yay, yes. My mind wanders as I get into that Diamond Cutter Sutra, I have to admit. It wanders. So these are things that we do. That's why they're the top 10 out of the 90 for 84,000. They say that the worst is probably Dharma gossip, where we're gossiping about things that happen in our Dharma center or in our Sangha. Or we're just, casually talking about karma and emptiness, sort of flippantly using karma and emptiness as our topic of conversation, not sincerely digging into something. So that can get a little bit more delicate to stay mindful enough of our Dharma speech to make sure that our Dharma speech doesn't fall into the idle talk category. Now, certainly Dharma idle speech is planting different seeds for TV sex scandal speech. Right? It's going to bring back a different kind of useless speech result. But it's the not being, mindful factor that we're trying to train ourselves to overcome. Geshe-la shared, an aspiring bodhisattva will find themselves in circumstances where we need to discuss mundane things in order to fit in. And that aspiring bodhisattva is always on alert for an opportunity to turn the conversation to something meaningful or to drop a one-liner, right? That somebody will maybe think about instead of just stepping into the ordinary conversation and staying there. Just always on alert. Maybe you never get a chance to drop your one-liner, right? The fact that you are on alert to be able to do so is what means your idle speech was less than it could have been. Do you see? All right, next one is coveting or craving. Being unhappy when you see someone else's success. Most commonly, there's something we want, even something we have already, but want to be sure we can keep or have more of. And then we see somebody who has that, or maybe has more of it than we do. And there's some mental affliction that immediately compares and thinks, not rationally, but has this gut reaction to there's really not enough to go around. If they have more than me, right? And that's what makes me happy. That makes me unhappy that they have more than me, because that's the source of my happiness. We don't think it through like that. We have the feeling and we act from it. And our action from it is, I deserve that more than they do. And we probably don't go and take it from them. But our interaction with that other is gonna be different. Our willingness to obstruct their happiness in some way is there because of this sense of they have more than me, or they have what I want, I don't, right? It's like our reaction is to get in their way in some way. We don't even realize we're doing it mostly. Until it's pointed out, till we point it out to ourselves. And then it's like, oh my gosh, yuck, right? When we understand about karma and emptiness, it's the opposite of finding the happiness that we want, is to be unhappy when we see somebody have some. So there are these 5 conditions, apparently, which I didn't really relate to these so much, but it's helpful to think them through. The 5 conditions that makes our state of mind one of coveting. The first one is we are attached to our own possessions, which includes our characteristics. So not just material possessions, but possessions, who we are, our good qualities. Second, we desire to accumulate more. Third, we learn about what the other person has. And number 4, it occurs to us that we would like to have those too. Right? We don't necessarily think I want to take them from them. I just want them also. And then 5th, our desire becomes overwhelming and we act in some way, scripture says, that is shameless. We act in some way to get that thing that the other has, that we want, because we desire to accumulate it, because we're attached to our accumulation of things or of qualities of character, whatever it is that triggers this. The end result, of course, is the action that we do. All of these, it's about the action that we end up doing that's propelled by the state of mind, state of heart that are brought about by previous circumstances of what brought up the killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, all of it. So the ninth one is ill will, wishing something bad on somebody else. It's like when we are pleased that someone else has failed in something or had problems, if there's someone we don't like and they're actually, having something good happen, our ill will could kick in such that we do something to interfere with them having a good day, right? Just because we don't like them, they shouldn't have a good day, right? It's subtle, but it colors, this kind of ill will colors our willingness to shove onto the elevator ahead of them. Just little things like that. Competitiveness is included in ill will. It's like, come on, it's healthy to be competitive. Yeah, there's a healthy competitive, and there's a ill will competitive. There's a wrong view competitive too. In ill will is also the mental factor of just not caring when we see or hear of someone having problems. There are people that we love, and their slightest problem we care about. And then there are others that have a similar slightest problem, and it's like, that's their problem. All the way up to the great big ones, to where it's like, well, they deserve that. Their behavior is making that happen, right? Can't they see how karma works, right? Just turning our karma wisdom onto them and then blaming them. Oh, I don't need to help you, right? We don't do that with the ones we love, but we do it with the ones we don't like, right? There's something somehow grossly satisfying when something bad happens to somebody we don't like. Like, we must have it or it wouldn't be in the top 10. It's ugly. 10th one is wrong worldview. Classically, it's not believing in karma and past and future lives. Because if we don't have the belief that our behavior has consequences, and that those consequences can carry beyond this lifetime, then none of the other 10 wrong deeds will be considered right or wrong. If all we've got is this lifetime, and in this lifetime, we can't see the results of our deeds done earlier in this life ripen within this life, right? You can find all kinds of circumstances where, I don't know, there was a person who all through their kid, teen to young adult years were, wonderful angel child. They were fabulous in any way, every way. And then something happens as an adult and everybody lies to them. Everything goes wrong, right? Everything. And we would think, well, look, they've been so kind, so good as a little kid. And now everything's just gone to hell. You can't tell me that this is cause and effect. And we would say, right, it's not cause and effect. And they'd say, so see, forget all this virtue stuff. It didn't matter for that poor kid. Right? The argument would be hard to defend if it didn't include, it can take past this lifetime for those seeds to ripen. So, most of us, if we're still here in an ACI class 9, we either already had the belief in past and future lives, or we really worked on that logic of, if I have a mind now, there had to have been one before this life's one to prove it to ourselves. Or we just believe. If we just believe, we're in a little bit tenuous territory, because we could lose that belief if we haven't verified it with logic, which will make it less likely for us to lose the belief. But the important piece is to understand that our behavior does have consequences. And if we can't show it to ourselves directly, what are we doing here? Again, we have the seeds to hear it said, whoa, that feels right. And so we're still here. But if we either don't use it to replant that belief, or work on the logic of it to replant that belief, we could lose it. Yeah, things could go wrong, go wrong, go wrong. I've had people that went through the first 6 or so ACI, and they applied themselves to their purification practices so well that, in Diamond Cutter Sutra, right? You study diamond cutters, your car's gonna catch on fire, right? Your house is gonna get broken into, you're gonna lose your job, and right? It happened to this poor young man, one awful thing after another. And he finally came to me and he said, I'm so sorry, I can't continue. My life is just in a shambles here. And what could I say? It's you're doing a great job purifying. But he had to quit. I don't blame him. It was too hard. And he was really turning it on. So meanwhile, right, regrouped, he's great, he's wonderful, but he didn't come back to study. Well, I wouldn't either. Why did I go there? Consequences of our actions. When we're convincing ourselves that my action now does not bring the consequence that comes next. Is that crazy? What you do in the moment doesn't bring what's next, but what you do in the moment creates your future. Well, if it doesn't bring the future in the next moment, what the heck does it matter? Yeah, it's a great debate. That's why we're studying all of this. So that we can see how the correlations do work. So that we can show it to ourselves that my behavior now does in fact matter for what happens in the future. And it matters for what happens now too, right? Let's take our break. I'm pausing the. That's the practice. If it were easy, we would all be enlightened right now. And maybe you are, and you're just faking it.
Faking it super hard.
You can quit faking it anytime you want. I think that'll put me out of business. So I don't do that after all. Keep faking it. So I still have somebody to share with. Otherwise, I'm going back into retreat and not coming out. Okay, so Why are we talking about all of this? Because karma is the direct cause of every millisecond of our experience. Always has been, always will be, except that at some level, we don't call it karma anymore, we call it merit. But the process of what we think, do, and say towards other imprints this mind in a way that becomes the experience of me, other, and whatever's going on between it happening. It's happening constantly because the only witness that matters in our moment by moment interaction with others is our own mind. And our own mind is always there and it's always on, right? Even deep sleep, even knocked out, even anesthetized, our mind is recording what's happening. That recording, right, goes in this loop, being influenced by everything that's ripening and everything else that's being recorded. Every moment of every recording is influenced by every other one. And when a given part of the recording gets over some threshold, whatever that threshold is, I don't understand yet, it manifests. It's like at a vibration that doesn't get over the threshold, and then it's a vibration that does, and ta-da, there it is. And it lasts a little while, and then it loses its vibration over the threshold and it's gone. Whatever I did with the thing while it was there, I'm planting new. Okay? And this process happening is existence. Okay? Karma and emptiness, dependent origination and ultimate reality, profound dependence, all these different words trying to describe it, where the words themselves don't quite get it until we understand the process, and then we say, oh, that's what those words are referring to. Karma is collected. You know that term, karma that's collected, fresh karma, is made by being there when we experience something, right? Just the mind witness, thinking, saying, doing, is when the imprint gets made. Stuff has to happen to that imprint for it to be a strong enough imprint to carry on, and for it to get over the threshold into manifestation. And it takes time according to different factors having to do with how it was imprinted, and different factors having to do with other similar things that you did that fed it, and other opposite things that we did that detracted from it. And so that process is what's growing it or holding it back. Growing it and holding it back is our behaviors, this moment, this moment, this moment, right? They're influencing everything, always. So these deeds that we are thinking, saying, doing, our interactions with other, are constantly either adding to our progress or blocking our progress towards the end of suffering, whether our goal is nirvana or Buddhahood. Even before we know those things, what we're thinking, saying, and doing is adding to our suffering or detracting a little bit. We don't stop recreating samsara until after we've seen emptiness directly for the first time. Right? That's when we're not replanting seeds in our mind with the full-on belief in the things and self and interactions having their identities in them, right? What we're calling self-existence. Until then, we are replanting our belief in self-existence. Less and less and less, because you believe less and less and less. But until we've experienced directly the fact that self-existent things are impossible, like never been there, we can't stop replanting the seed. So the less we believe, the closer we get to that experience. And the more consciously we avoid certain behaviors and do other behaviors based on our growing belief, right? The stronger our ability to reach the end of that belief grows, right? So we use our understanding to choose our behaviors, to plant our seeds, such that we move ourselves towards the actual experience in which we no longer believe in the things having their own natures the way they still seem they do. But if we don't believe in that anymore, we don't replant the in it from it anymore. And that's the beauty, that's the being on the conveyor belt to nirvana or Buddhahood, depending on our state of mind when the experience happens. So really the whole point in working with avoiding our 10 virtues is to grow this goodness such that our belief in things having their own nature is decreasing. So our ability to experience them not having their own nature directly is growing, so that we can get through that portal onto the conveyor belt to the end of perpetuating suffering for everybody, right? So yes, we're working on avoiding the 10 virtues so that we ourselves can have a more pleasant life, so that we ourselves, right, can grow our spiritual qualities. But technically, it's all directed towards the seeds necessary for this one experience. And it can get a little frustrating because it's like, that's our goal, and it still seems so far away, maybe. And, it's something that we work with, is that's just a belief as well. And so we train in our progress, we plant the seeds, and we struggle with our mental afflictions regarding it, and carry on. So because we can't see directly how this behavior causes that result, we use an omniscient being's instruction guideline and then check it out to see if we can confirm, not from direct experience yet, but from logical deduction and personal experience in another way, to be able to prove to ourselves that yes, these 10 particular behaviors and their opposites are within my capacity to change myself. And in doing so, I will create the ball rolling towards this transformation of me and my world that the very teachings offer is possible. So there are 4 different karmic results from doing any deed, but we're going to talk about them in terms of their relationship with the these 10 non-virtues in particular. Four aspects that were involved in when we planted the seed that ripen in influences in a different way. So the first is called the ripened result. The second is called the consistent result. The third is called the consistent consequence. So it's a little bit confusing. And the fourth is the environmental result. So Geshe-la in his 4x4 teachings, right? These are the four flowers. And he's softened the terminology a little bit. He has made it more understandable. Scripturally, they use these odd terms: ripened, consistent consequence, which is different than the consistent, and the environmental. So the ripened result of any of those 10 non-virtues is its influence in the projecting karma that sends us to the next rebirth. So the any of the 10 non-virtues done as an extreme instance that is then the projecting karma at the end of the lifetime, that karma will send us into a hell realm. So an extreme instance for killing, for example, would be one that's totally premeditated, accurately recognize the object and that they're alive, under this mental affliction of my killing this person is going to make me happy. And then 4, you go and do the deed and they die within your lifetime. So it's like, yes, I did it. I completed it. That's a big bad deed. If that seed ripens at the end of this life, you're on your way to a hell realm. If you do a lie with those big 4, the lie can send you to a hell realm. Do you see? So it's a little bit weirder. A big bad ill will, if it's the seed that ripens, send you to a hell realm. Right? It's all 4 of the factors present that makes the non-virtue be a seed that, if it's your projecting karma, causes the hell realm. A medium instant of any of the 10 non-virtues will send us to the craving spirit realm. So before we learned, oh, being stingy will make you a craving spirit. But here, killing without all 4 of those, if it's the projecting karma, hungry ghost. A lesser instance of any of the 10 non-deeds, if that's the projecting karma, we're headed to animal realm. So that's the first factor in any of these 10 non-deeds. What rebirth we would get. It's called the ripening result. The second kind of result we get is the consistent result. And that's expressed as, even if you do manage to get a birth as a human, then in that human life, you will have a habit of doing that non-virtue again and again and again. So the killing wasn't a projecting karma to send you to hell realm. Some other projecting karma sent you to another human realm. Hooray, right? Miracle. But then the filling in the details karmas for that life, because of a killing karma, make you one of those little kids that loves to stomp on bugs and, throw rocks at birds. And, there are little kids that are like that. And then there are little kids that aren't like that. And there are people that have a tendency to lie. And there are people that just don't have to teach them about it. They're just truthful, maybe even truthful to a fault, some of us would say, because they have this filling in karma from, one of the 10 non-deeds or their opposite, right? Can also fill in. So it's called the consistent result, meaning we consistently live according to that seed that we're bringing forward from past life. And then the question is, will just one instant of lying make you somebody who likes to lie? Probably not. Probably there would have had to have been a habit of lying in this life that isn't the projecting karma, but it's the filling in karma that makes me the person that would have a tendency to lying, as that's just what you do to be successful in your world from a little kid onward, right? How exactly it works, omniscient being. But he's saying, look, that if we get a human life and we see that we have these certain tendencies, habitual tendencies, we can look at them and see, oh yeah, I can see how that's related to, this non-virtue. Maybe it's not lying per se, but maybe it's like exaggerating. And exaggerating is a kind of giving a misimpression. And, I see where that comes from. I see how that's connected. And so I'm going to be really careful to stop that habit. Third is called the consistent consequence. And this refers to things that we will personally experience others doing towards us as a result of those seeds planted previously. So this is the one where we get a personal result that we can start looking at the correlations to see, where did that come from? And then how do I want to react to it? And is that reaction a reaction that I want to plant? Or is it a reaction that's just going to perpetuate this whole thing? Okay? When the person's yelling at me, if I want to yell back, is that really what's going to be most effective for stopping suffering in my world? If your answer is yes, yell. If your answer is, I don't think so, then I'm not going to let myself yell. I hope. I'm going to choose something else. And then I'm going to go and see, where is it that I'm forcefully imposing my will on somebody else, whether I'm yelling at them or not. Whatever I find unpleasant about that circumstance, I want to see where I'm doing it to somebody else and stop. And I want to determine what the opposite would be and do more of that. That's how I get to use this karmic correlations. So each of the 10 non-virtues has two consistent consequences, two ways that we can recognize, two things that will happen to us. So for killing, for instance, our life will be short. And it's like, well, we sort of won't know that till it happens. So that's not so terribly helpful. The second one, though, is we'll get easily sick or easily tired. And we think, oh, I was just a sickly kid, so now I'm a sickly adult. And it's like, yeah, but there's a reason for that. And it's not that you got your vaccinations too young, right? It's from past killing. Yeah, but everybody's killed. So why isn't everybody sick and tired all the time? They will be. When it ripens on them, right? They will be. We're just getting it when we're getting it. Mm. So if we do have health problems, we can take Geritol, we can exercise, we can go take the medicine. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We can protect life, right? Which we already do. So we can do a lot of rejoicing about the protecting life we've already done. And we can find ways to protect life more. Yeah, but I'm so sick. Yeah, but wear your seatbelt. That's protecting life, yours. And like whoever else gets in the car accident, your body doesn't go flying around. If you're strapped in, you're protecting not just your life, but others. Stop at the stop sign, for crying out loud. You're protecting others' life. I mean, little things like that we do all the time. But if we need a reason to protect life, there's one. And you don't have to go buy fish and liberate, right? Just stop behind the limit line on purpose. Don't run the red light. Don't run the yellow light. If you can go donate blood, right? You get it. There are all kinds of ways that we already protect life that we can do more of and rejoice that we have. And then send it, right, to our improved health. Will it happen tomorrow that we feel better? And my personal experience is it took a long time, but does work. And there's nothing else to do anyway. Okay, I'm sick all the time, so I won't wear my seatbelt, right? I'm sick all the time, so I'll run the stop sign. Like, come on. That's not the logical conclusion of it doesn't work. Okay. Protect life. For stealing, one of the consistent consequences is we never have enough to live on. Second one, whatever we do have, we have to share with others. And it's a little interesting because, if we have families, parents with kids, you have to share everything with your kid. Is that a bad thing? No. But is it a result of having stolen? I don't know. You'd have to think that one through. So in the circumstance where it is an unpleasant result that you have to share everything with others, we wouldn't connect the dot to say, well, it's because I stole stuff from others. But we could see how in a circumstance, so say we live with other adults, and you've got your toothpaste and they've got their toothpaste, and you keep finding your toothpaste is disappearing faster than you use it. It's like, who's using my toothpaste? And turns out, one of your bathroom buddies just grabs the tube and uses it. They don't care whose it is. And you perceive them as stealing your toothpaste. You wouldn't think to use theirs. And so you feel put upon somehow from having to share your toothpaste. If you didn't care, you wouldn't care. It's a different karma ripening. But if it bothers you, then think, oh, I stole from others to be even in this situation where somebody would help themselves to my toothpaste. Right? Our circumstances are often just as absurd as them. When we can't get enough, can't get the things we need, we don't automatically think, oh man, result of stealing from others. Do we? You know, so often I go to those grocery stores that have got like massive merchandise and I can't find what I want. And I go all these dumb grocery stores, right? Instead of result of stealing sometime in some lifetime. But just to have that thought is purifying, do you see? Instead of blaming the grocery store, I take responsibility for my own past stealing, which is why I can't find the peanut butter with no sugar in it today. And next week I get there and there's plenty. Right? To apply the right thinking takes a unpleasant circumstance and uses it to burn off a negativity instead of planting a new negativity, which is, I can't the grocery store have enough peanut butter. Yeah, who wants that one? Stealing. Next one, sexual misconduct. The first way that it can ripen is that the people around us are unreliable, regardless of relationship issues. Just, you're the gardener. You have a team of co-gardeners. They just don't show up. And you're left taking care of the whole yard yourself. And what does our mind do? Those gardener pals, they are not reliable. They never show up. I have to do it myself. Right? And we grumble and we're mad and we criticize. And then any chance we get for, you know, pointing out that they do a lousy, they're not reliable, my mind's gonna bring it up instead of, oh man, sexual misconduct ripening here, right? Who would connect that dot? Until now we know. Sorry. Second one, you have competition for your partner. So competition for any kind of partner, but in particular, they say you have a partner, you are two reliable partners, and your partner is getting hit on all the time. Because ripening result of our past interfering with relationships, not with that partner, past lifetimes, is making it such that the circumstances are interfering with our partnership. Whether the partner, right, pays any attention or not, if it bothers you that people are hitting on your partner all the time, then it's a ripening result of this sexual misconduct from before. More important, though, is this unreliability of people and difficulty in maintaining partnerships. We need all kinds of partnerships, and we need them to be reliable. And so we need to be a reliable partner, not just in sexual relationships, but other places as well. Next one, lying. Lying. Consistent consequence of lying is that nobody believes what we say in this life. Even when we're speaking the truth, nobody believes what we say. It's like some people who lie all the time, they get believed. Some people who never lie don't get believed. Right? And vice versa, right? It happens in all four ways. Some who never lie but lie once still get believed. Some who lie all the time and now are telling the truth don't get believed. Some who lie all the time still get believed, whether they're lying or not. What's the fourth one? I lost track. But in life, any of those circumstances happen, and we can either be on the receiving end or witnessing, and we see it happening. Kind of a big one going on in our political arena right now. So that's the first factor, is we're We're not believed, even when we're speaking truthfully. Second factor is that we perceive that others are always trying to deceive us, cheat us, lie to us, right? Our perception is they are deceiving us because of the seeds from past having deceived others. Probably that one would come from deceiving others and looking like we got a good result from it. And then we bring that with us into a current life, and it's like, whoa, everybody's deceiving me. Everybody's out to cheat me. Divisive speech. The first way it can ripen is the people around us are always fighting against one another, assuming that other people fighting is unpleasant for you. It would be for me. But I know that there are cultures where it sure seems to me like the families are fighting. But if you ask them about it, they go, fighting? This isn't fighting. But it's like so unpleasant for me to hear it going on. It's like, yuck, right? So for me, it's ripening of lying, of divisive speech. For them, it's not, right? It's going to be something else. Second factor in divisive speech is the people around us have undesirable characters. Like the good kid that falls in with gang members, right? And then becomes influenced by gang members. And mom goes, my boy is such a wonderful boy. He couldn't be in a gang, right? But he just fell in with the wrong crowd for whatever reason. From past divisive speech. Who's the kids or the moms? The next one, harsh speech. Result of harsh speech is the sounds of our world are unpleasant. Sirens, jackhammers, squeaky bus brakes. You're on the garbage truck route, and you hear it rattling around. Barking dogs, crying babies, whatever sounds it is that are annoying to you, they come from harsh speech. Geshe said, you have a neighbor with a barking dog. You can go talk to them. You can take biscuits to the dog. You can do all kinds of stuff, and it may or may not work. And you can be really, really careful with your harsh speech. Everywhere else, especially not yelling at the dog, right? Which is, what do we do at a dog that's barking? Right? Just perpetuated it. And just wait and see what happens. Right? Geshe says they'll move away, But either way, the dog barking, irritating you will stop. Even if the dog keeps barking, it won't irritate you anymore. When we change our seeds, how long will it take? As long as it takes for the dog to stop barking. Dog to stop barking, irritating you. That's when you can stop. And then by then, if you want to go back to harsh speech, then have at it. But hopefully you've figured out that I don't need to live with harsh speech. It's just as easy, right, to get my point across without it. Where's the second one? Harsh speech. Sounds are unpleasant. Second one, when people talk to us, it sounds to us like they're picking a fight. They probably aren't from their side. But it seems that way. Idle speech. Because of our past useless speech, no one respects what we have to say in this life. So it doesn't necessarily mean for our whole life nobody respects us, but maybe we're in a certain situation where, in that situation, it doesn't matter what I say, nobody pays any attention. Other places they pay attention, but that one not, because it all is variable according to who you're with, what circumstance you're with, because of the variability with which the seeds were planted. But if we can see this overall pattern, man, I'm just disrespected again and again in all these different ways. Here, who would figure out, it's because I gossiped before? Like, what? But when you think of the correlation, gossip means we're blah, blah, blahing about stuff that doesn't matter. Then, yeah, out of my mouth comes stuff that doesn't matter. So I'm going to see other people thinking stuff out of my mouth doesn't matter. It's my seeds making them disrespect me. If I ask them, you're disrespecting me, what's the matter with you? They'll go, I am, right? Right, they'll defend themselves because they probably aren't seeing themselves disrespect you. I'm seeing them disrespect me. And then I'm going to blame them and come up with some way to make their life a little bit unpleasant, because that's what stupid humans do, instead of going, oh man, useless talk, at it again. Right? And if I can do that, then all right, I won't blame you. I'll blame my useless talk, and now I got some out of the way. And let's see what happens. Especially I need to zip my lip in current useless speech if I'm doing it somewhere, and probably will find that we are. If it's a situation that we're seeing as a recurring theme. Second factor in useless speech karma ripening is we are afflicted with lack of self-confidence. So lack of self-esteem, amazingly, is a karmic result of useless speech. But when we think of it that way, it's like, oh yeah, duh, right? If I'm blah blahing about useless speech, well, then I'm not even going to respect myself when those seeds are ripening. And if our counselor, right, knew, oh, I have such lousy self-esteem, what should I do? They said, go and speak purposefully or not at all. Like, go do silent retreat for 3 months. And then come out and track your purposefulness of your speech for another 3 months, and check your level of self-confidence after 6 months. We'd say, and I'm paying you for that, but it's a more direct treatment and management than other things that we would do to show that we have the self-confidence, right? To grow our self-confidence. So we could go to the counselor and we can work on our useless speech. And then what the counselor has us do will be more likely to work, because we've shifted our seeds and, right, followed somebody's advice. And son of a gun, the counselor's advice worked. Right, fine, as long as your self-confidence is stronger. Coveting is the next one. The result of coveting is that we have a personality that's dominated by desire. Right? Our life is run by desires for things. And second factor is and we're never satisfied with what we have. Like that's one of the 6 human sufferings. Never contented, right? Never satisfied. So I don't know, this coveting thing must be really strong in our minds if it makes one of the 6 human sufferings, but in gross and subtle ways, clearly. It's like we live in such a material culture, and I don't think any of you guys are succumbed to that, and I don't really know anybody who really is. But you see in the TV commercials, I'm supposed to be obsessed with how I treat my skin, right? Obsessed with how I dress, obsessed with the latest jewelry, obsessed with the latest iPhone. And it's like, it's this karma of past coveting, jealousy, like a little unhappy with other people's happiness, makes for a lifetime of I want, right? And the more I have indicates my value, or right, where I land in society, all these comparisons that we do comes out of this jealousy. Right? It's easier to relate. For me, it's easier to relate to the word jealousy than coveting. Jealousy. Just they have something I should have. And then it's like, yeah. Like I never thought I had jealousy until I recognized this state of mind that would criticize, why would they paint their house trim that color? It's a kind of, I couldn't just be happy for the color that they chose. And I had to think something. I was smart enough to never say it out loud. I'm saying it now, but it was always in my mind, why would you want to drive a car that costs $50,000, right? Back in my day, cars cost 8,000. So 50,000 was nuts. Guess what our last used car cost? 30 something. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. Who would ever drive a used car that costs that much money? Now, but you see, my mind just criticize. And I realized finally it was out of some perverted kind of jealousy. Not the obvious, I want to get in your way because you have the boy I want. Not like that at all. But this, right? I couldn't just be happy for their $50,000 sports car for them. Now it's so fun. Much more fun to be in this mind than it used to be. Jealousy, karma. Did I say the second one? Yeah. Dominated by desire and never satisfied. Next one, ill will. Ill will is you're always finding yourself without the help that you need. So it's a little bit different than the divisiveness and a little bit different than the sexual misconduct, both of which make unreliable people or people that aren't there. This one's a little bit different. You need help, and everywhere you go, they can't help you. Just can't help to get the help we need. Of course, then we blame them for not helping and get mad about them, which is the ill will that perpetuates it. Second one, you find yourself always hurting others or being hurt by others. So the ill will may have only been a mental ill will. We didn't actually go and hurt people. But when those seeds ripen back on us, they've grown into even inadvertently hurting people or people willingly or inadvertently hurting you. You know, there are so many times that in my effort to protect a life, like catch a little mouse and take it to relocate it, and it gets its little nose stuck in the wires of the have a heart trap that it's not supposed to get hurt. And, you know, it got hurt in my effort to protect it. Like that happens to me a lot. I catch the little bug, I take it out, and when I let it go, you know, it smashes into something and drops dead. And it's like, oh man, it just happens. And it's this kind of result of past ill will. You know, it happens to me too. I go for something, it's supposed to help me, and it hurts me instead. It happens. Last one, wrong view. It ripens as being a person who keeps harmful views. And I just have to read this to you. It says, such as believing that if something happens, that another country does something to hurt people of our country, that we should go and hurt their people of their country. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, this is from back in the 1990s when Geshe gave this discussion first. Same thing happening. How long is it later? 30 years later. We're still seeing this belief that tit for tat is the way we're supposed to behave. And if we don't behave like that, there's something wrong with us. We are weak and they will take us over, and oh my gosh. Right? It's this result of wrong view that perpetuates wrong view. Now, wrong view doesn't mean believing in self-existence of things. It means not believing that my actions are the cause of anything that I can experience. Past actions, the cause of current experiences. Current interactions are the cause of future. If we believed that, and you saw somebody crush a cockroach and their ribs immediately broke, how many cockroaches would you crush? 0. Right? If we really could connect the dot, there would be no misunderstanding of what to do when some other country hurts the people of our country. We don't just lay over and die, but we don't go hurt them before they can do it again, or go hurt them before they can hurt us because we think they're going to hurt us. You know, we just wouldn't do it because of our understanding, our direct understanding. So the fact that we're living in a world where, oh my gosh, it is happening still, is a result of our own past wrong view. And like, if that was all it took to say, oh, this is all about wrong view, I don't have that wrong view anymore. If that were enough, we would all just change the channel, right? And it would be gone. So it's because it's moment by moment by moment, those wrong view seeds, that even as we are aware that it's not like that, it's not like that, it's not like that, they're still ripening from when we did believe that. So there's a lot in there, and it doesn't mean we just give up, but carefully recognize, man, this is ripening. How much more is in there, right? It's got to be less because I'm not willing to perpetuate it. Right? I'm going to take personal responsibility for my behavior moment by moment, the best that I can do, and burn all of the rest of this stuff off as it's happening. to the best of my ability. Okay. So first, wrong view. We're a person with harmful views. Second, we are a deceitful person. So this one, the wrong view, really comes back as our own personal qualities. The others were how people were reacting to us, but this one is like, no, our own personal qualities. We'll be the one who's lying, cheating, stealing, and seeming like that's the way, that's how you get ahead in your world from wrong view. So we're not those people, are we? That's a big rejoiceable. It means, right, we had some right view in the past, or we wouldn't be taking classes like this. We probably were already people that didn't lie, cheat, and steal, even before you met these classes. So, we've got a lot of not wrong view seeds, and that's a big rejoiceable. So truly add it to your list, before you go to bed. I have some correct view seeds, right? Because I am a decent person and I always have been, and I'm happy with myself, and I'll do more of it. Yay. And all this other crap, it's burning off. Okay, good. So there's still the environmental results. This is why I asked you for the extra time, because I want to finish this off so that you have the whole encyclopedia. Right? You have the ripen result, lower rebirth. If you happen to get a human rebirth, you will have the habit of being like the 10 non-virtues that we did before. Third, our experiences will ripen in these ways. Two possible ones, not necessarily you get both for each of those 10 non-virtues. Right? In any way that we did any of the 10, this is how that will ripen. Now we go to the environmental result, what it's going to look like in our outer world. And when these were first written down, people were living in an agrarian economy, right? So we relied upon the crops for our needs to be met. We still rely upon crops, but not so immediately, right? Now we rely on the grocery store or the Amazon man, except that I'm boycotting Amazon. So we rely upon what the shops have for us. So it kind of, we need to morph it a little bit. I'm still gonna give it the traditional way from the crops version, but we'll look at it from this other more modern way too. So this is called the environmental consequence of the 10 non-virtues. For killing, the consequence of killing, it expresses itself in our outer world in the form of foods and drink and medicine and crops, things that are supposed to have the power to nourish and sustain us are losing that power. They are inferior to what they used to be, or I guess to what they could be. They have little nutrition, little potency. They're hard to digest. Things cause disease. And because of this, the majority of living beings die before reaching a full life. And it's like, well, what would a full life be? How can you really say that? But if, as a general rule, the population lives to 90, somebody who dies much younger than that, we would say they could have lived to their 90s if they hadn't had these circumstances, right? Accidents illnesses, right? Various things seem to get in the way of what could be a nice long life. It's a result of past killing influencing the environment that makes it such that for that person, the environment doesn't sustain them. Medicines don't work. Food doesn't, right? You get it. For stealing, because we have stolen, the crops are few and far between. You know, they're supposed to be on their rotation. You're supposed to get this many bushels of wheat out of this field at this time, but it doesn't happen. It's not happening regularly the way it should. There isn't enough. The crops that you do get have no power to overcome your hunger. They spoil easily. You plant the seeds, but they never sprout. Or they sprout and then the rains don't come. Or too much rain comes and it damps them off. Right? It's just, it won't come to fruition because of having stolen. Right? We can't get our needs met. So the environment plays out its role in that as well. We say, oh, it's climate change, you know? Right. But climate change for the real reason versus the worldly reason is our karmas, right? Ripening such that you can't get rain on time, too much or not enough. Sexual misconduct, the environmental result is the places where we live, the places where we go. There's urine and feces all around. The place is stinky and unpleasant, filthy. Everything seems unpleasant and distasteful. And it's like, it doesn't mean everything all the time, right? Where you live is fine, but I have to drive through this one part of town to get to the office. In that one part of town, they just don't care about the garbage, right? It just smells bad. And we blame that part of town when really we're driving in and out of ripening of our past sexual misconduct seeds. It's curious. I always thought that was a weird correlation. And then I thought back in my professional training early on, I had the opportunity to volunteer at a venereal disease clinic. And it's like, oh, I get the stinky part, right? Because it's just a lot of those conditions have particular odors to them. And then you're dealing with that constantly, and the whole clinic takes this odor, right? Or like in the olden days, the nursing homes would have that awful old urine smell. They don't anymore. But it's like, of course you would blame the circumstances for that foul odor, but who would think to blame one's own past sexual misconduct for that? Now that we know, it's like, all right, every time I pass something stinky, one set of seeds burnt off, yay. Right? Easy to do, easier than getting upset about a smelly, unpleasant environment. Fourth one, because we have lied, we live in a world where when we undertake some kind of work in cooperation with other people, in the end, the work fails to prosper. Right? Because we've lied, cooperative effort fails. You know, you got to think about that one. Also, all of these are pretty subtle. Those people can't work well together, right? They don't trust each other. From your side, they don't trust each other. because of our own past being untrustworthy because we lied. People are cheating each other. Everybody's afraid, and there are things to be afraid of. We're going to hear that a lot. Fifth one, from divisive speech, because we've split people up, the environment is a place that's uneven, like lots of crags and gullies, highs and lows. It's very difficult to travel through. And where there are many things to be afraid of, and you are always afraid from having been divisive with other people. Your environment is divisive to you, keeping you separate from where you want to go. So travel that's difficult. It could be, I know, you're traveling and you get to the airport, your flight's been delayed. It finally goes and you've missed your flight at the next place, right? You finally get on a flight, you get to the next place, and I know they're having bad weather and they can't land in your airport, right? Have you ever had a trip like that? And it's like, what's the matter with these airlines? Why can't they run on time? Right? Point that finger to what's really going on here. It's either divisive speech, or you could say, well, it's because I lied, Everybody's working together, it's just not working out. Or it could be because I've stolen, right? I can't get my needs met. Maybe some combination of all of them. All right, harsh speech. Because we've spoken harsh words, the ground is covered with obstacles. So that's different than divisive. The ground covered with obstacles, fallen trees, thorns, stones, rocks, clods of dirt, shards of glass. Everything is rough and dreary. There's no streams or lakes. It's just hot and threatening. And there are many things to fear. It's like, this is describing the Arizona desert. Arizona, every bush you come across is out to get you, right? It's got stickers or thorns or bees or something that you get close to it and bing, it's after you, right? Then the rocks are just sharp. Everything's sharp in the desert. I love it. It's so beautiful. But it's not because it's the desert. It's a result of harsh speech. Everything's harsh. Right? So if we live in a world where things are harsh, it's harsh speech ripening. And then the way we would want to respond would be not, damn, this desert is so harsh and awful, right? All the harsh speech that we would use to describe the harsh place. Zip your lip. And speak kindly, sweetly, about anything, everything, to everybody, and see what happens to the desert. Is it going to stop being a desert? No. Those little ground squirrels, they can run all over the cacti that I can't get within 2 inches of without getting poked. They can run all over it and they don't get pokered. It has stickers, but they don't get stuck. I get stuck until I've worked on my harsh speech enough, and then I don't get stuck either, which I actually don't get stuck anymore, and I used to. So it's not that we're going to change the desert. We're going to change whether it's threatening and harsh. I find the Arizona desert absolutely extraordinary and beautiful. So, right, it's our seeds that we work with. Because we've spoken meaninglessly. Crops and fruits refuse to grow, or they grow at the wrong time. They seem ripe, but they're not ripe. Their roots are frail. They don't live long the way they're supposed to. And there's no place to take our leisure. No parks, no pools of water, and many things around that make us afraid. So meaninglessness makes for, right, the things that we're going to for our environmental comfort are meaningless. For our environmental support are meaningless. They don't have the capacity to do that. Mm. You know, we go to the grocery store, and any time of the year you can get watermelon. You know, just about any time of the year you can get mangoes and avocado. Maybe not quite peaches, but right, any time of the year. Whereas it used to be, strawberries were in season. You know, in California, they were in season in February and March. And then you couldn't get strawberries, fresh strawberries after that. And then July, August, watermelon, right? You could only get stuff when it was in season. And then now, anytime, anywhere, practically. That's really great karma. Hey, we've cleaned out our stealing karma, our meaningless karma. We've cleaned out a lot of stuff. We as a humanity, if everybody finds that to be the case, but then we would have to say, wait, that's probably not true for everywhere. You know, there are probably plenty of places in the world that can still only get watermelon when their own family garden grows one. Mm-hmm. So a lot of like this, we hear all of this, that's all bad stuff. But when you flip it around and say, yeah, but we don't have that, it's because we've done the opposite. Do you see? And those are all rejoiceables and stuff that we want to do more of if we want to be able to sustain the ability to have access to watermelons all year round, if that's important to you, right? Whatever it is that's important to you. We work on those seeds according to what to avoid and do the opposite of, based on this like little encyclopedia of information about the 10 non-virtues. Eight, we have 3 more to go. Number 8, because we've coveted, we've had jealousy about what others have, each and every good thing that we manage to get or even start to get gets worse and worse. So typically you get something that you want. You're happy with it for a little while, maybe a long while. And then eventually, right, it's going to decline. But come on, for a while, it did its job. As a result of jealousy, coveting, the instant you get it, it's already causing you trouble, right? You finally get that new car. You've never had a brand new car. And on your way home, the truck in front throws a rock and your windshield cracks. My brand new car, right? That kind of thing is the result of this jealousy of others. Number 9, from ill will. Because we've wished bad things on others, we live in a world of chaos where diseases spread and evil is everywhere, and there's plague and conflicts and fear of armies from other nations, where everywhere there's venomous snakes and scorpions and poison things. We're surrounded by harmful spirits and thieves or muggers and the like. Egads. Because of ill will. And then what do we do as a result of all those bad guys? We point out to anyone who will listen how awful they are, right? And how those bad leaders are causing the problem. And if we don't point it out, then, we're complicit. It's such a stalemate I find myself in right now. And yet the ill will from the past is ripening what's going on, and ill willing to try to get it to stop is not going to stop it. It's not technically perpetuating it in the moment, but it's adding to the seeds from before, and that's what's perpetuating it. So to be honest with you, I just deleted my Substack, which is where I was seeing what was going on and deciding I want people to know this one and that one I'm not interested in. I thought I was doing it very conscientiously to show my resistance. And when I read these notes for class, it's like, oh my gosh, I am perpetuating the ill will that's going on, right? So few were having suggestions of what to do that I finally, it's like, cut it. And I just deleted it just today. Yay. Tenth one, wrong view. Because of wrong view, we live in a world where the single highest source of happiness is steadily disappearing from the earth. So we would say the single highest thing is the Dharma, but somebody else might say the single highest thing is their Christianity, or the single highest thing is their opportunity to get good health care, right? Whatever it is that you personally feel is the single highest good thing. When it's getting harder to have access to that, it's this result of past wrong view, misunderstanding that our actions create our future, but not the immediate next moment. No wonder. So instead, people believe that things that are unclean and suffering are actually nice and happy. A world where there is no place to go and no one to help and no one and nothing to protect us. That touches into our recognition of emptiness, in the sense that the things we go to for happiness, we're expecting that our happiness comes from those things, when of course it doesn't. If our happiness was in the things and having the things, then every time you had the thing, you would have that happiness. And we know that the thing might bring happiness and it might not. And it might continue and it might not. And if the happiness was from the thing, anybody who has the thing should have the happiness. And of course, that doesn't happen. So just simple logic shows us that our happiness with the thing can't be coming from the thing, right? Whether it's an object or another person or a relationship, it doesn't matter what I mean by the thing. It's our misunderstanding of where happiness comes from is that deep, deep mistaken view that propels all of this, right? So wrong view within wrong view is the belief that things, identities, and qualities are in them. And so they are the source of my happiness or unhappiness. When they cannot be, something else must be going on here. Because otherwise it would work the same for everybody. Mhm. We go to crazy things for our entertainment. You know, here you are in a class. You are unique, rare, and special. You could be on TV watching some baseball game, or I don't know what even the season is right now, but some sports, something going on, right? Or out at the bar, or whatever the thing that people do to pass their time. You know, and it's human nature, it's samsaric, however. We can do those things for some rest and relaxation when we recognize that they are not, in fact, the source of our rest and relaxation and enjoyment. The source of our enjoyment is helping somebody else enjoy it. So if you're going to go to a football game, take somebody with you. Right? At the very least, take somebody with you or give them your ticket or whatever, so that we're doing our entertainment for the right reason, not avoid all entertainment, but do it very conscientiously. So we get these 10 non-virtues explained to us, and they're in the context of our pratimoksha vows, but they are not vows. You can see why. We couldn't vow to not kill and to actually keep that vow, because we inadvertently have to be part of killing if we're going to eat, if we're going to drive. So we don't take it as vows, but we commit ourselves to using those non-virtues, virtues as guidelines for our day-to-day behavior, in which we have aspects of them that we are willing to commit ourselves to avoid, right? At the level that we actually can avoid. I will avoid killing a human or a human fetus, right? We can do that. We can't change our external world in an external way. We can only change it karmically. Call it an internal way, right? Through our own understanding and choice of behavior, by working out the details. So our choosing an ethical way of life that's more conscientious than it was before is the way that we go about stopping perpetuating our own unhappiness, because the unhappiness was a result of this subconscious understanding that nothing that we do in the moment actually brings what comes next. And that's so frustrating, and it's scary if we don't then know what to do, right? We'd get frozen if we didn't understand what I do in the moment is how I create my future experiences. Now it's like, wow, my current moment behavior is where I create. It's always been that. We just didn't know it. Now that we know it, we can use it. When we didn't know it, we stayed on automatic pilot. This happens, I react like that. That's normal human adult. I expect this. whether it happens or not, something else went wrong. Now it's like, no, off automatic pilot. Choose, choose, choose. Your behavior may end up being the same, but because you've done it by choice, because of creating your future, it's a different seed planted, right? Different seed and hugely more powerful than automatic pilot. So Geshe said, at this place, forget shamatha, forget vipassana, purify yourself first. Clean yourself out. Remove the things you don't like happening in your world by changing your own behavior. How? By using these 10 guidelines to look at what's happening in my world. So here's how you go about doing it. Do you need a break? This will take 10 more minutes. Here's how you do it. So think of 3 things that you like about yourself and your world, 3 pleasant things. One thing that's about yourself, about your body or yourself. One thing about others around you. And one thing about your environment that you find pleasant, that you like. Then, second list, 3 things that you don't like. 1 about yourself. 1 about others around you. And 1 about the environment. Okay, be specific, write them down. So you've got these 6 different things to look at. For the pleasant ones, think through these karmic correlations. We voice them in the negative, flip them around to think of the positive, and think of these 3 different pleasant aspects that you want to perpetuate, and write down what kind of behaviors can I do to perpetuate that thing that I like about myself. Right? Look at the 10 non-virtues, virtues. Decide how they correlate and choose one of the virtues that you may say, oh, I like such and such about myself. It's because I've spoken truthfully in the past. I'm going to be really careful, right? To speak really conscientiously, truthfully. Right? Give yourself that little task to do. About yourself, about the good, something good about others, something good about your environment. Maybe you'll find they all come from the same virtue, non-virtue. Maybe you'll find there are 3 different ones. Probably more likely 3 different ones. But for each one, think, oh, how can I perpetuate this? How can I be more of this? And write down how you might do it. Then for the 3 that you don't like, you do the same thing. Look at the correlations and see what it might be a ripening of. Just decide the one that comes to you, seems the closest fit. And then think of what the opposite behavior would be. Right? So come up with an antidote. If what we're looking at was the result of lying, oh, okay, I want to speak really truthfully today, or not at all. and give yourself some kind of plan to actually carry it out at least once for each of the three things about oneself, about the people around you, a specific one, or as a group if you see a pattern, and then for your environment. So you end up with 3 doing the opposites and 3 doing the sames to work with on that given day. They'll come together, they'll weave together. You can make this little like image of yourself. What will I be like if I go through my day acting in these ways to perpetuate that, and acting in these beautiful positive ways to antidote that? What will I be like today? And imagine it, and then go out and try it on for size. And then at the end of the day, just look at your list and enjoy your effort. Right? You don't, if you want to write something down, fine, but mostly just look at it. It's like, wow, cool, I worked on that. So you can stay with those same 6 for a while, or you can do a new one, right? It's totally up to you. But it gives us this tool to really work with what our experience is. And very quickly, I found that like I had these karmic correlations rattling around in my mind enough that when something would come up, it was like, oh, okay, right? And it would very swiftly shift my reaction into some other choice of behavior because the patterns, right, had become so clear in my mind from working with them in this way. 3 positives, 3 negatives. All because we understand the marriage of karma and emptiness, which is where we started at the beginning of class. That person who's hurting, nothing in our worldly efforts is gonna help them except temporarily. So it's worth trying, of course. But we want to be able to help them in that deep and ultimate way, the way through which they go on to stop their distress forever. And that can only happen through our effort to change us by way of our understanding the marriage of karma and emptiness. And with that understanding, guided by our guidelines of the karmic correlations, we have the tools to make the changes in ourselves through which that person will go on to stop their suffering forever someday. And that's such an extraordinary goodness, you have no idea. So be happy with yourself, especially with the extra 41 minutes. My bank account is now 0. Think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Offer it to that precious holy being, your own precious guide. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you, show you the way. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with happiness, filled with the wisdom from which it comes, and may it be so. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for teaching extra today.
My great pleasure. Thank you for staying. All right.
It's almost tomorrow here.
Thanks. All right. Bye-bye. I'll see you. We are Thursday evening. Okay. Bye-bye. Yes.